welcome to my channel made by Cath, and thank you very much for joining me today for another one of my midweek sewing chat videos. And as ever, I really like popping on for these midweek chatty videos, and in this one I've got one completed sewing project to share with you. I've also got my current sewing project that I'm in the progress on to share, and I've got something knitting wise I'm working on too that I'll pop at the end of the video. But I really enjoy popping on for these chatty videos, so hopefully you'll enjoy hearing me talking for the next 20 minutes or so about what I've been up to on the sewing and knitting front. So before I start talking about what I've been up to over the last week on the sewing and knitting front, I thought I'd start this video as ever by sharing with you what I'm wearing today. And today it's a little bit overcast outside. We had beautiful sunshine at the weekend, this last weekend gone, and the weather was really warm, and I had the opportunity of wearing a couple of my handmade summer dresses, which is always nice. We don't get guaranteed sunshine and hot weather here in the south of England, as you'll probably know, so you have to take these opportunities when they come along. So yeah, the weather was really lovely then, but it's now sort of turned and it's gone a bit cooler, and there are dark clouds outside, and I think it's supposed to rain at some point today. So yeah, not summer dress weather so much today. And today I've got on a pair of ready-to-wear jeans, and I've got a top that I made by hacking one of my favourite dress sewing patterns, and it's this pattern here. It is the fringe dress and blouse pattern by Chalk and Notch. It's a really nice dress and blouse pattern for woven fabrics, and it's got some really nice details to it that I really like. And the instructions are great on this one too, so I always find it a really enjoyable sew, just to work your way through these instructions. They're really nice, really pleasurable to follow them. And it's got a really good size range as well, this pattern. It goes from a size 0 to a size 30, and it has two bust cup options built in, a B cup and a D cup, which I always think is quite cool too. So I'll show you the line drawings of this pattern, so you can see all the nice details on it. It's basically a dress with a gathered skirt, and the dress sort of comes to, okay, maybe just a bit below empire line, somewhere between empire line and where your natural waist would sit. So it's a fairly high bodice cut. And it's kind of designed to be a little bit loose and oversized, and it's got two main versions of the bodice. There's this button down version here, and it's got these gathered sleeves that are gathered up by sleeve tabs, and I think that's a really nice, interesting feature to this bodice. Or the other version you can make is this one here. That's this sort of notched front bodice with no buttons and a more of a classic sleeve cuff. And then the skirt is a gathered skirt with this curved hem, which I think is quite pretty. And to make the blouse is basically cropped off shorter, so it's got a gathered skirt on the blouse almost too. It's a really nice pattern with some nice details. And I've made a couple of versions of the dress, and I really like to wear them. Oh, and I thought I mentioned you can add on waist ties as well to cinch it in if you want, although I've never done that. I quite like the sort of silhouette, how it sits just as it is. And it's got pockets too, which is always good. But I really like the idea of also making the blouse version of the fringe dress. But I wasn't sure, with the gathering around the waistline as the blouse is designed per the pattern, whether it might end up swamping me a little bit with all the gathering in the fabric there. So I thought I'd have a go of hacking the pattern, which is what I've done for the blouse I'm wearing now. And I essentially took all the gathering out, so I've still got the sort of dipped hem shape of the blouse as per the pattern, but I've taken the gathering out so it just sits flat on the front and back instead of being gathered in. And I'll stand up a little bit so you can see what I mean. So I've still got all the bodice top as it's per the pattern with the darts and the buttons, and I've also done these gathered sleeves with the little tabs on, which I really like, with these cute little buttons on. But yeah, the bottom half is just my own design. I sort of made the pattern pieces and then added on the dipped curved hem as per the pattern. And I actually did a blog post where I talked about how I did this hack, in case you're interested. I'll link it down below in case you fancy checking that out. But it was quite a lot of fun to do it, and I really like how it's turned out. Actually, I'm really happy that I gave it a go. And the fabric I used for this, you might recognise, it is an Atelier Brunette double gauze fabric. And I've bought this fabric, I think, in 3 colourways actually, and made different garments out of it. I've actually made a fringe dress in the black version, the sort of full dress version. But this is their sort of creamy colourway of their double gauze fabric, and it's really cute. It's got these lovely little gold sort of metallic spots on, which you can see. And it's really lovely to wear. It's so soft and comfy. The only thing is you have to be really careful when you're ironing it, because it isn't like a crinkly double gauze, it's more of a flat double gauze, so I find it does need ironing, so I have to be very careful that I'm ironing it carefully and not ending up sort of melting any of these lovely little metallic spots. But it's worth the hassle because I really love this fabric. Oh, and I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like on. But it's a nice comfy one to wear. It's quite nice this weather, which is almost a bit muggy. Although it's cool, it feels a bit close, so it's still nice and breathable. And yeah, comfortable to wear. So that's what I'm wearing today. Anyway, I'll move on now to sharing with you what I've been up to over the last week on the sewing and knitting front. And the first thing I wanted to share with you is my completed sewing project. If you've watched my last couple of midweek chat episodes, you'll know that I just over the last couple of weeks have taken part in my first ever sewing class, which was an introduction to quilting, which was run at my local sewing studio, which is Sewisfaction. I'm quite lucky to live nearby to Sewisfaction, but I've never done one of their courses before. But one of my friends had done a couple, and she quite fancied going along to this introduction to quilting course and asked if I'd like to come with her. And I thought it'd be a really fun thing to learn. I'd really like to have a go of quilting. So went along to that. It was 2 days, it was 2 Fridays, and the course was run by a lovely lady called Jo, and her she has her own quilting business. She runs online quilting classes, and her business is called The Crafty Nomad, and I'll link her down below, and I'll link everything I mentioned in this video, patterns and fabrics, down below as much as I can as ever. But anyway, it's a really great 2 days, and I learned so much, and it was a really nice way to learn into quilting. I think if I'd started myself, I maybe wouldn't have got all the techniques quite right, and it was lovely to be taught how to cut accurately and, you know, quilt accurately and all those skills. So I talked last week in my last week's episode about the first day of the course, which was mainly cutting out and starting to piece together the quilting pieces, and I'll link that video up above in case you wanted to have a look and listen about that one. But this second day's class, which was last Friday, was all about basting the quilt and then quilting, and then also adding the binding around the edge, and I really enjoyed all those processes. And I learned so much. For example, on the basting, it was really interesting to find out what wadding was recommended. The wadding I think we used in the class was an 80-20 wadding, so 80% cotton and 20% polyester. But I didn't know there was also bamboo wadding out there, which apparently is great for children and baby blankets because it's sort of hypoallergenic and yeah, really breathable and has lots of great properties, antibacterial properties and that sort of thing. So it's really interesting because I think if I hadn't gone to the class and found out a bit more about the different options, if I started looking online myself, it might have been a bit of a large amount of information out there and I wouldn't have known what to go for. So that was really interesting, and we used those little curved safety pins to then pin our quilted pieces onto the wadding so that the quilt stays flat. I thought that was really cool because I do find often with dressmaking when I use pins, they do make the fabric then bend around the pin. So I thought, yeah, curved pins would be quite good for sewing actually as well, but this curved safety pins worked really well, and I learned how it's worth spending a lot of time smoothing the quilts all out so that when you come to sewing it doesn't sort of bunch up and get sort of folded over in places where you sew. So it felt like quite a methodical process, which I do really like. And then we went on to do the actual quilting, and we just used sort of straight line quilting to create sort of diagonal lines on the fabric. I'll show you my quilt so you can see what I mean. So here is my completed quilt. Have I got it the right way? Yeah, I have. And I'm really, really happy with it. It was so much fun to make. As you can see, it's a mini quilt. It's designed to be either like a lap quilt, or you could, if you wanted to add optional ties on it to use it as a sewing machine cover. So it would kind of go like this and wrap across the sewing machine, which I think would be really cute too. But for me, I wanted to make this for my daughter to use in her imaginative play. I thought it would be really nice of dolly changing mat or a little picnic blanket for her teddies or something like that. I'm sure she'll come up with some ideas for what she'll use for it. But yeah, and so as you can see, the quilting we did was this sort of diagonal quilting. And for my version, we had the lady gave us a few different options for how you kind of mark the lines. And I found, I think it's called a Hera marker, really handy. It kind of almost adds a little score into the fabric and then you can kind of quilt along. So I think I might get myself one of those because I think I would like to do some more quilting. So I might maybe get myself a couple of quilting supplies so I can kind of get started on that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So this is the front of the quilt with all the little squares. So I've got these little pink hearts and then white hearts fabric. I've got this unicorn fabric in pink and white too. And then on the back, we used up leftover scraps of our fat quarters. So you can see on the back here, I chose 3 of the fat quarters to use, and I think they look really pretty together. And then I got this border that I went for in hot pink, and I also went for hot pink stitching on my quilt as well. I did say to the lady who was teaching, would that be okay? And she said, as long as you're fairly confident your lines will be quite straight. Otherwise she'd maybe go for more of a blending colour. But I thought, well, I wasn't necessarily confident my lines would be straight, but I thought the hot pink stitching would be fun. And I guess it would make me really be as careful as I possibly could be to make them straight because I knew it would stand out a little bit. But they're not all perfectly straight, but I think they're good enough. So that's that. So yeah, we did all that quilting, and it's quite satisfying when it starts getting to look like a quilt and it all comes together. And then the final thing we did on the day was the binding around the edge. And I thought that was a really interesting technique to learn, particularly how you do the little metered corners. You can see it there, that's the front metered corner and the back. yeah, it was really satisfying doing that and seeing how it came together. And I like how quilting binding is not bias binding, so it doesn't stretch, so it feels really sturdy and secure as you put it on. And then the final bit was hand stitching on the back. And I think actually the hand stitching might have been one of my favourite parts of the process. I started in the class and then I didn't have quite enough time to finish it in the class, so I took it home. And I was really keen to get the children to bed that evening and sit on the sofa and just really enjoy sort of finishing off and taking my time and doing that little bit of stitching. It was really nice having the kind of coziness of the quilt on my lap as I worked my way around. And the stitch we used was really good to learn actually. It was ladder stitch, and it gives a better finish or less visible finish than a sort of classic slip stitch. So it was really interesting to learn that. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. Oh, it's upside down now. And I'm really pleased with the little quilt. I definitely think it's something I'd like to do a bit more of. So yeah, that is my completed sewing project. I think I have maybe got the quilting bug. But yeah, I will be back to dressmaking for now. I think I need to think about what else I could do with on the quilting front before I leap in and start making, you know, sort of 20 million mini lap quilts. So like I said, it's back to the dressmaking front for me now. And so the next thing I've got to share is my current sewing whip. And I'm currently working on quite a summery one. It is a summery skirt. And I'm making this skirt using a new pattern to me, and it's a free sewing pattern. It's this one here. It is the Sabina skirt pattern by the Little Pomegranate. It's a really nice sort of midi length skirt pattern, which is kind of a new sort of style for me, this midi length, but I'm kind of embracing it. And you can get this pattern, it's really easy to get. You basically go on the Little Pomegranate's website and you enter your details or your email address to sign up to her newsletter, and then you automatically get emailed the Sabina skirt, and you get the sort of PDF files and the instructions and an AO copy shop option or a print at home option. And if you make the print at home option, it comes with the layers function, so you can just print out the size or sizes you want, which I always think is a really good function. But I'll show you the skirt pattern. It's a really nice, pretty, simple skirt pattern. This is the line join. So the skirt, it is a elastic waisted, sort of gathered in skirt waist that's designed to sit on your sort of natural waist. It's got these little slanted pockets at the side and a gently curved shape that comes down to a midi length hem with this cute little ruffle on the bottom. And the pockets are cool. I like the design of the pockets because they're designed so they're sewn into the waistband as well as the side seam, so they won't sort of drag the skirt down and sort of distort the shape at all, which I really like. Particularly, I think it'll work well if you're sewing with like a sort of slippery viscosy fabric where the pockets can drag down a bit. So I do like the construction of the pockets in this one. And it's got a really good size range too. It goes from a UK size 6 to a UK size 34. And the largest size is for a waist of 51 inches. So the skirt is designed for light to medium weight fabrics. And in the pattern it does mention if you're a beginner sewer, they recommend starting with something on the stable end of the scale like a cotton, rather than something slippery and drapey like a viscose. And the pattern really is written with beginners in mind. It really holds your hand throughout the whole sewing process, and any sewing terms it mentions in there, it really takes time to explain what they are. Like interfacing, it talks about what it is and how you use it, and the same with understitching and stay stitching. So it's a really enjoyable pattern to work my way through actually, just because it really did feel like it held my hand. It was quite a relaxing sew because you know that everything's explained really clearly, you really can't go wrong on it. But I'll show you my version and where I've got to so far. I've made quite good progress because it is quite a speedy, simple sew. So here's my version, the fabric I'm using. And I'm using a really pretty viscose fabric that I got from Minerva. As you can see, it's got these really cute little daisy type flowers on with a navy base and little orange centres to them. And it was really good value fabric actually. It was only £5.99 a metre, I think, and it's lovely and soft and really drapey and swishy. I think it came in 3 colours, this sort of pretty sort of blue colour, and then a rust colour and a sand colour as well. Yeah, I really like a bit of navy, and I thought the navy and the white's quite a nice summery kind of fabric. So as you can see, here's my elasticated waist, and the pockets are quite hard to see, but they are here somewhere. There's a pocket there. It's really nice and roomy actually. And then you can see a little bit of drape on the skirt, and you can probably hear the noise of my clips because at the moment I've sewn the skirt, but I've just got the ruffle attached with the clips, so I've sort of gathered it in and clipped it in place, and I just need to decide on the length of the skirt. So, in terms of sizing, I went for the size 8 purely based on my measurements, but I don't think the sizing is too critical because the main sizing bit is choosing the right size elastic for your waist, and as long as you get that right, you can just gather in the right amount. But I went through a first size 8, which seems fine. I've tried it on, it's all fine. And when I traced the skirt out, I actually added 3 inches to the bottom of the pattern, the length of the main skirt. And I decided to lengthen the main skirt piece by 3 inches. And because I was looking at the pattern, it said it was designed for someone who's 5'7" tall, and I'm 5'6", so not that dissimilar. But then I was looking at the photograph on the front of the pattern, and this shows Romana modelling the skirt, and Romana is the designer of the Sabina skirt. And I really like the length on her. I thought it was a really pretty length, kind of on the longer side of midi. And I was reading her blog post, and she said she is 5'2", just to give reference on where the skirt falls on her. And so I thought if I wanted to kind of achieve a similar length on me, I'd need to lengthen the skirt slightly. So I did add on those 3 inches. But I've tried this skirt on now, and actually I'm not sure about that length on me. It looks pretty long, and it almost feels like maxi or just slightly shorter than maxi on me. So I've now got to the point where I've taken those 3 inches off and brought it back to as the pattern intended. But I'm still not sure if it's the right length or if I want to take it a little bit shorter. So I'm kind of in a state of indecision about it. I need to have another try on and maybe try it on with a couple of tops I might like to wear it with, and footwear I might like to wear it with, and just make a final decision on where the skirt needs to sit. I really just want to get it sewn up now so I can start enjoying wearing it, because I think it'll be a great one for summer. So wish me luck with making a final decision on that, and hopefully by next week I'll have finished off and made that decision, finished off the bottom of the skirt and hemmed it, and I'll be able to share with you what the final skirt looks like and how long I ended up making it. But yeah, I need to have a bit more of a think on that one, a bit of my head scratch, and I'll probably ask my husband for his opinion, and he'll look a bit pained, and as husbands often do, not really want to help me decide. So yeah, and wish me luck on deciding on that one. So the next project that I wanted to share with you that I've been working on over the last week or so is a knitting project, and it's quite a cute one, I think. It's a creature from this book here, which is the Knitted Cats and Dogs book by Sue Stratford, and I really like the book and the patterns in it. I've also got this book here too, a Knitted Cats and Kittens book by Sue Stratford, and this book came first, and then my children and I saw this one online and we couldn't resist getting it too. And if you have seen some of my older videos, you'll know that I've over the last year or two been working my way through these books and knitting cats and dogs from them for my children, and they really like choosing the colours, and I really enjoy knitting them too. Actually, they're nice little projects. And the latest project I've been working on is a pup, and I'll show you which pup is this one here, called Stripes, and there he is sort of flying through the air. He's very cute with little stripy body and arms and stripy head, and he is designed to be knitted in Aran cotton yarn. And I do really like cotton yarn for when I'm knitting knitted sort of toys. I find it's sort of it's a bit more hard wearing than an acrylic yarn, and it goes less fluffy and bobbly. So, and I quite like knitting with it too. So my son chose the colours for his version of Stripes, and he chose a green and a blue. And they're quite nice jolly colours that go together quite well. And I'll show you some of the pieces and the progress I've made so far. So here is the body that I haven't yet sewn up. I think it looks quite cute in this green and blue stripe formation. And I've got 2 little knitted arms here that are in progress. They've been stuffed now. I need to add little sort of paw marks on there. They still need to be done. I've got a little tail here that's in blue, and a couple of ears. So I'm gradually making my way through it. I've done all the knitting. Oh, here's a couple of feet. They're quite sweet too. I've done all the knitted pieces. So now it's just a matter of just spending a bit of time, taking my time, knitting it all up and stuffing it to the right shape, which is not my favourite part of the process. I do enjoy the knitting more, but it is quite nice to see the little character coming together when you add the nose and the eyes and things like that. And what I like about these projects in these books is that I often learn something new, because there are loads of different yarns included for the different pups. So I've learned a lot about different yarns out there. And I've also learned about different stitches, because some of them have complicated little stitches, and it's really nice to learn different ones on different projects. And because they're kind of bite-sized projects, they're not huge. When they are a bit fiddly, it doesn't feel too overwhelming because the pieces are only still small. But I've learned something on my latest project, this little Stripes pup, and that is in terms of how you do increases, adding extra stitches when it comes to making stripes. So often when a pattern says knit one, make one, to make that extra stitch, I will often just knit through the front and the back to create the extra stitch. But for this pattern, that didn't really work very well, because it meant I was kind of taking yarn from the row below, and the stripes were starting to look a bit jaggedy where I'd done those increases. So for this one, I had a little look on YouTube, and YouTubed a couple of videos for the sort of proper way of doing the make one. And I found the best way to make one when you're using stripes is the way where you take the yarn from the row below and sort of loop it over the needle and then sort of knit or purl into that, which is really interesting actually, and gave a much better finish on the stripes than knitting through the front and the back. So that was a real learning point for me, and I think my stripes have come out nice and even, and I'm really happy with how they are, and I've learned that new little technique to make a stitch. So that is my current knitting project, and I'm enjoying getting that little pup sewn up for my son. So I just need to spend a bit more time now in the evenings sewing up those seams, stuffing it and adding on the little details like the face and things, which I do enjoy doing, but it isn't my favourite bit of the process. So I try and take it slowly and not do too much at once so I don't end up rushing any pieces, because I feel like it needs time taken over it to make sure it has a good finish when it's all sewn up. So hoping to get that finished over the next few days, and I've got another pup in the pipeline for my daughter too, so you'll be seeing hopefully 2 completed knitted pups at some point in the fairly near future. Oh, and I thought I'd mention, I got the yarn that I'm using for that project from Lovecrafts. I find they have quite a big selection of different yarns, so I find it often quite easy to find on there what I'm looking for when I'm looking for slightly random yarns for the different pups. But I'll link the yarn down below, and I'll link everything else that I mentioned in this video below, the fabrics and patterns wherever I can. But that is everything I think I've got to share today. So thank you very much for joining me for another one of my midweek sewing chats. I always really appreciate your support and your likes and your comments. It's really lovely to know that you enjoy watching my videos, so thank you so much. And if you have enjoyed this video, as ever, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, then thank you very much for popping along. I would love it if you would consider subscribing. And if you subscribe and you also press the bell icon, that means you'll then be notified when my future videos come out. So I'll be back again on Saturday with another video. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!